Just ahead on Heartland Highways, you're invited to take in a little theater. First, Harlan Hall in Marshall, Illinois is a renovated facility that's been turned into a community center.
We didn't have a community center, and I was very positive in thinking that the city needed a community center.
Next is the Virginia Theatre in Champaign, Illinois. This facility, which is nearing completion, holds a long and varied arts history, and thanks to some help from the city, it's getting a new life. Finally, the Fischer Theatre in downtown Danville, Illinois has been in the process of restoration for over a decade. But thanks to a persistent group of volunteers, they're confident that she will shine again. That's just ahead on Heartland Highways. Well, Kate, we're fresh off the Heartland Highways to bring the folks stories about theaters this week, each of them in different states of restoration.
That's right, and the first one is Harlan Hall in Marshall, Illinois, which is actually what I would consider a fully renovated facility that they've turned into a community center.
Whether it was a livery stable, club gathering place, or tractor dealership, Harlan Hall in Marshall, Illinois has always been at the center of the community. Well, now, thanks to the city, some generous donations, grants, and hard-working volunteers, it's a community center.
I'm a believer in historic preservation, and I just knew we didn't have a community center, and I was very positive in thinking that the city needed a community center. We needed a banquet hall. We didn't have we have other places you can have some things, but nothing with this kind of appearance, you know. And I knew we could do it for very little city investment. You know, if we were to build a building like this from the ground up, scratch, you'd probably be talking, you know, $2 to $3 million to do something like this. And we're going to have it done with city monies of, I would just roughly guess, not over $150,000.
Well, those of us who'd been interested in historic preservation, we were just scared to death that this building was going to be a parking lot. And actually it came this close to being that.
Luckily, the building was saved and renovated, but built in 1872 and used for various purposes since then, it didn't always look this good.
Oh my. Well, the downstairs was a large room, had a drop ceiling. When we got up under the drop ceiling, we found a tin ceiling. So we tried to salvage as much as we could, but time had taken a pretty heavy toll. So we were able to save enough to put in the office. The building was in poor repair, as you can imagine, been pretty neglected for a long time. So it was a lot of tear down temporary walls, clean, take up tile floors, had a kitchen that was not very nice, and all those things had to be removed. So it just looks nothing, of course, like it did at that time.
Through the hard work of volunteers, the building has been restored to its former beauty, keeping intact anything original that was salvageable along the way.
The stairway, the front stairway, is the same one that was here originally. The windows are all the same. We tried to salvage and save as many things as we possibly could. Some things just was impossible.
The second floor room with the stage now plays host to high school proms, wedding receptions, live entertainment, and other community functions. But this room has a unique history of past events, all its own.
At one time, a gentleman that was a physician here for many, many years and lived up into his 90s told the story about watching a high school basketball game in here. The high school team played basketball because there were no posts in the second floor. The high school had posts in the gym floor. It was a skating rink at one time, and if you look carefully at the baseboard, you will see lots of dents. The baseboard is original, and it took us a little while to kind of figure that out, but we decided that's where people stopped themselves when they were skating up here. Actually, I think during World War II, they rolled bandages for the soldiers. So it's just been, you name it, it's almost been done in this building.
Speaking of varied uses, the downstairs room has been converted from what used to be stables and eventually an old kitchen into a dining hall for a special community program.
One of the first things it did was provide a lunch for the senior citizens. They're downstairs right now preparing for a nice lunch, and it's called Senior Diners Club. They can come here 55 years and older and eat for $3.50.
And if that isn't enough, the building also functions as the home of the National Road Welcome Center.
The balcony, of course, is just it's just a real plus. And it's the home of the National Road Welcome Center. And we have, explains the road and when it was built. We have dioramas that proceed along as they built the road, what the landscape looked like at that time. Also, it tells about other things that were going on at the time along the National Road. So the National Road was actually right through our main street in Marshall, which is called Archer Avenue. And so Marshall's been blessed to have the National Road since its inception.
Whether visiting to see the Welcome Center or Harlan Hall itself, Pat says the reaction by those stopping by for the first time is usually the same.
It's a great draw. It really is. We have a lot of people from away from the area that come and visit. Most people walk in the front door and say, "Oh my goodness, this is beautiful." And that's very rewarding to those of us who have spent so much time here.
So, for the building that's always been at the center of the community in some way and is now a community center, supporters say they're just glad they didn't pave paradise in favor of a parking lot.
Cute little stories have really come forward, as you can imagine, when we've gotten into this and people get to talking, and it brings back memories for a lot of people about activities and things that took place here. We're just glad that there was a foresight of the city fathers at that time to buy the building and save it. So those of us who've been involved are just ever so grateful for that.
If you'd like to purchase a copy of any Heartland Highways program, contact us at 1-877-727-9348 during regular business hours. You can also visit our online store at WEIU.net or mail your order with payment to the address on your screen. DVDs are available for $25 each. Just let us know what show you're interested in by mentioning the story name or the person featured in the show.
Our next theater is the Virginia Theatre in downtown Champaign, and this is what I would consider the in-progress facility. With its varied art history, the Virginia holds a lot of memories for many, and thanks to some help from the city, it's getting a new life.
Upon its establishment in 1921, it was already apparent that the Virginia Theatre in downtown Champaign would have a varied entertainment history.
The Virginia Theatre was established in 1921 as a vaudeville house, and it was also thought that it would be a movie house from the very start. Of course, at that time it was silent films, so when we started with live productions on December 28th of 1921, within 2 weeks of that we were showing movies. So it was always conceived of as a place that would be multi-purpose, and it is to this day.
From the 1930s until the 1990s, the theater operated as a movie house. Over time, it began to show its wear, but that didn't stop local groups from rallying around the place that held so many memories for so many people.
And there had been so many changes in, entertainment with the rise of the multiplexes and home theater and all the rest of that, that it just really wasn't a viable economic model anymore for people to have a single screen movie theater like this in town. This is the largest screen in this community, but it was no longer seen as the way to go. So at that point it became more of a multi-purpose space again, which, as I said, is something it was always designed to do. So the Virginia Theater Group came together. It was a nonprofit, and it was thought that that could be a way to begin the restorative work that needed to happen in this space. And that went on for a number of years, but really the project was so huge it needed another boost. So in 2000, it was purchased by the Champaign Park District, and the Park District has operated it ever since. In the last 11 years, it's been doing major restoration work on the building.
After falling into disrepair over the years, a facelift was imminent, and it didn't take long for the restoration effort to get underway once the Champaign Park District purchased the building in 2000.
Really what we started with in 2000 were all the life safety issues. At that point, I would say that the building was really in danger of being demolished. And it's such a gem in the crown of downtown theater for Champaign that there was so much public support for bringing it back that we immediately began with, new air conditioning, new electrical, new plumbing, fixing the doors and making them compliant with safety code, all those kind of background items that you have to do to make a building safe. From there we moved on into, I think, things that are a little bit more visible and a little bit more fun in that way. And that's things like restoring the eastern lobby, fixing up the main lobbies, which was a major project done last year for about 7 months. And that was done because of a big gift by the family of Michael Carragher. His estate made $1 million donation to the theater to enable us to redo the main lobby, the concession stand, and the upper lobby. Pretty much everything that you see in this building that's been done over the last 11 years has been done because of private donations. That includes the marquee that was done just recently, the lobbies that we've spoken about, the eastern lobby that went before it, and now the audience chamber. Most all of that has been done through private donations, some few government grants, but I would say it's private money that's made this happen.
As the renovations move forward, the Parks Department is trying to retain as many of the original features as possible.
The approach that the Park District has tried to take with this building has been to use the language of the original design and the architecture, and to take elements from that and restore and renovate the space with modern amenities and modern design, but really use the language of the original founders and the original builders. And that's going to continue as we go into that audience chamber. I think you're going to see big improvements in there in terms of comfort, and it's an appearance that has struggled, frankly, over the past few years with a lot of water damage, crumbling plaster work. So there's a lot that needs to be done, but I think we'll bring it back to a state where it looks even better than it originally was.
While the Virginia Theater will continue to morph into a beautiful space that harkens back to yesteryear, it's still useful in the meantime, serving many functions, just as it always has.
The Virginia Theater is a multi-purpose space as it always was designed to be, which is, I think, its great strength. It had movies from the very start, it had live performance from the very start, and so that means it still has the biggest screen in town, it still has terrific 35 to 70 millimeter projection units. It still has 3 stories of fly space above the stage area so that you can fly in scenery. And that's reflected in the programming. It's a space that people can rent to put on productions. It's a space that, this Champaign Park District can bring in live shows for. So you see everything at the Virginia. You see movies, you see Alison Krauss in concert, you see B.B. King in concert, you see live stage productions, you see youth theater, you see dance. It's really a mixture.
And that mixture will remain as time and renovations go on. And future plans are plentiful too.
The next step for the Virginia Theater is going into that audience chamber. It's the main auditorium. And I think that's where the support in this community is for it. Really wants to see this happen here at the Virginia. So that's taking care of fixing up seats and fixing the paint and the plaster. There are huge chunks that have crumbled out of the proscenium arch over the stage. There's a lot of plaster work in there that you can't see the detail or the color in at all. So I think people want to see that restored to the grandeur and opulence of the lobbies that they've seen fixed up over the last year or so. It's going to take at least 6, 8, 10 months for us to do just the auditorium. There's additional work that needs to happen at the theater in its other spaces, the backstage spaces. So in the wings of the theater stage area, in the dressing rooms and green room area of the theater. It has its original pin rail system on the stage, so this is the hemp rope and the bags of sand and pulleys from 1921, all the original gears there. And those are things that need to be looked at for restorative work as well.
Bringing a landmark back to life will take time, but time organizers say is well spent and well received by the community.
I think people are really enjoying seeing this theater cleaned up. I think they're really, everybody has a story about the Virginia Theater in this town. It's definitely a family fixture. It's a fixture of life in Champaign. And I think that people who come here are people who have performed in the theater. In the 1950s and 60s and before, there are people who've come here as kids with family members for their first movie experience or the first time they saw a live stage play. And I think that connection to the life of this community is what makes people so happy to see it come alive as a refined and renovated performance space.
Now you can watch Heartland Highways online anytime. Check us out on youtube.com/WEIU TV. Once you're there, just look for the Heartland Highways playlist, which will take you to a list of full episodes from seasons 7, 8, 9, and 10.
The final theater in our show is the Fischer Theatre in Danville, Illinois. Now this theater is what I would say is our little ways to go facility, but with a slogan like "She Will Shine Again," it's easy to see the dedication the fans have to keeping it alive.
The Fischer Theatre here was actually started out as Heinley's Grand Opera House. Was built in 1884. And following that, Danville had a series of theaters. At one time, there were 9 altogether during the great movie era, all clustered around the general downtown. And one of the blessed ironies of it is that the Fischer was always the grandest of them all, the oldest of them all, and now, sadly, is the only one left.
The Fischer survived through the years mostly because it evolved. It started as a live theater venue, christened by a performance by Lillian Russell, then became a major player on the vaudeville circuit thanks to its placement between Nashville and Chicago, and eventually turned into a movie theater, which it remained as such until it closed in the 1980s.
The late 1970s to 1980s, film moved on to the mall settings where we have today with the multiplex theaters. The owners of this theater, a movie company, kind of ran this place into the ground, and then they walked away. And when they walked away, fortunately, some local citizens here recognized this value and formed the Vermilion Heritage Foundation to take ownership and begin the restoration process.
What the Vermilion Heritage Foundation saw was an opportunity to preserve not just history, but a unique place that the community could grow to love again.
One of the principal things about it as a historic theater is the fact that this theater was built during an era for when the intention and the business was live performance. And because it was built in 1884, the theater was built before there was electric light or any kind of amplified sound. So what we have in the auditorium is a 1,000-seat house that's specifically designed for everyone to be able to see and hear and fully experience what's going on stage without the help of electronics and supplemental lighting.
And it's that special character and charm the Vermilion Heritage Foundation is doing their best to bring back to the community as they bring as many people as possible in the doors.
Our main goal is that we want people to be excited about the Fischer. And so any excuse to bring people in here, to show it off, to tell them about it, is what we do. We've had history classes in here. We've had different artistic classes in the lobby. We've had birthday parties in the lobby. We've had people use the lobby for their Christmas party. We've showed movies in the lobby. So we try to use the parts of the theater that have been restored, and we try to take people on tours whenever we can to keep the community excited about the theater.
The original fundraising effort that still propels the restoration today started with the foundation and some help from local celebrities.
Danville is the hometown of Dick and Jerry Van Dyke and of Bobby Short, the famous club jazz singer, and of Gene Hackman and of Donald O'Connor. And one of the first efforts was the group managed to get all 5 of them to come back here and do a couple of levels of fundraisers, which put together the first mass of money to get a dry roof on this place and begin securing it and stabilizing it. Very important.
The initial funds helped stabilize the building, and eventually the front lobby and cafe bar area were restored, allowing the theater to hold the events Cher talked about earlier. But despite the long and ongoing restoration, the community is still behind it.
I think people are still excited about it. You know, they're excited to come into the theater. Anytime we hold an event, we have a good turnout simply because people are excited to come in here and to see what the theater is like. Either they have a memory of being in the theater when they were younger, or they've never been in here and they've always wanted to come in.
The Vermilion Heritage Foundation hopes to restore the auditorium and eventually use the upstairs office spaces as art galleries and maybe even a classroom, creating an all-encompassing community arts center. The end goal is to bring back the charm and functionality that so many have fond memories of.
I think when this theater is renovated, and I say when, and if this when this theater is renovated, it is going to be the jewel of the downtown. It is going to be the gateway to the downtown and will draw people from miles and miles, and you will see a lot of development in the downtown due to the theater operating.
I always pointed out this way in looking at historic theater restoration projects, and there are many of them all over the country, some successful and some not, but there's never ever been one that is as stubborn and as steady and as constant over such a period of years as the Vermilion Heritage Foundation here in Danville, Illinois. Because in most communities, after 6 or 8 years, people give up. Well, in Danville, we don't give up.
In other words, she will shine again.
Well, I don't know about you, Kate, but I'm all played out for this week.
Me too. Thanks for joining us on Heartland Highways, and we'll see you next time.
Some of our favorite adventures were ideas that came from viewers like you. If you think there's a place we should see or a person we need to meet, let us know about it. Just make sure it's in the Illinois, Indiana, or Missouri area. Drop us an email at heartlandhighways@weiu.net, call us at 1-877-727-9348, or send us a letter to 600 Lincoln Avenue, Charleston, Illinois, 61920. Well, we're fresh off the Heartland Highways this week to bring you an entire episode dedicated to theaters.
Theaters. That's 3 theaters all in one.
Okay.
Sorry, I just had a sleepy moment. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Our next theater is the Theater. Why can I say theater? Theatre. 3. Theatre. 3, 2, 1. Our next theater is the 3, 2, 1.
Do it again, it sounded like you said eater.
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 She's bossy. All right.
Bossy. Put one, it's a little bit like this. Yeah,
But with its long and varied art history, the Virginia Theatre is getting a little help from the new city to get an all-new life.
From the all-new city.
All-new city? What? Was I listening to myself? Clearly
Making
not.
stuff up!
And it's what I would consider the in-progress.
Her face looks like it's melted.
Yeah, because the sun just came out.
Yeah, it just switched. I